Jim the Ape, wake up, see bullshit. Jim the Ape, start to rant. Jim the Ape hears disagreements from stupid humans who can't. They say Jim the Ape very oppressive and his ideas suck. His arguments are problematic, but he don't give a fuck. Jim the Ape think maybe feminists wanna grow up and get over themselves. Jim the Ape will say it out loud. Jim the Ape's an asshole and proud. Jim the Ape hates stupid. Jim the Ape hate SJWs. Jim the Ape, very simple ape with big, normal, and working brain. Jim the Ape want proof. Jim the Ape want proof. Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape. And today I'm holding the first of 2 memorial services for a pair of thoroughly deceased equines. The 2 dead horses in this case are a couple of videos that were made recently, in real life time, not so recently in internet time, addressing the kind of YouTuber I happen to be. In the video I'm looking at today, that genre of entertainment is referred to as anti-feminists. I would have got to this sooner, but real-life responsibilities got in the way. Most of you probably don't care, but to those who do, I have a job. Fucking sue me. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get this shit show on the road.
So this is a scary video to put out there. I predict that 2 hours after this video is posted, the ratings will be okay, but 2 weeks after it's up, and the ratings will not be so okay. And that's because there's a community out there on YouTube made up of viewers and creators who seem set on silencing anyone who talks about anything they deem too social justice-y.
Oh really? That's an interesting claim. How exactly are they trying to silence you? Or could it be that, like Agnes Turok and Trey Melvin before you, you have conflated the idea of criticism or mocking with trying to silence? Also, I'm definitely not trying to silence you. After all, I am literally showing your video to my subscribers, even though they've undoubtedly already seen it by now.
It's almost like there's a threshold for them of social justice issues that are all right to discuss and support. There's general LGBT rights, sometimes binary trans identities like trans men and trans women, sometimes mental health advocacy, but anything above that threshold, like rape culture.
You mean the ludicrous myth that we live in a society that sees rape as perfectly acceptable? Despite the fact that it's a felony, there's outrage whenever a male rapist is sentenced too lightly, a public accusation of rape causes lynch mobs to form before evidence is even collected, and the fact that when a presidential candidate is found out to have said something even remotely suggestive about maybe touching a woman without her consent, everyone loses their minds and says he's a rapist. Which, by the way, is the most demonizing label you could try to brand someone with. But do keep telling that lie. It's awfully amusing to watch you try and consistently fail to prove such an obviously false conspiracy theory.
Trigger warnings.
You know, as much as trigger warnings are basically just for infantile little snowflakes who are irrationally terrified of ideas and opinions they don't like or don't agree with, I think they could be useful. If they're used on an entirely voluntary basis, and they aren't curtailing anyone's freedom of speech, I have no problem with trigger warnings existing. They're still stupid, though.
Privilege.
A word that used to mean something, but has been beaten into the ground, just like this video was with other responses to it. Look, the problem is, you and your ilk use this word to try and shame and belittle people because of the traits they were born with and did not choose. In many cases, it's also tied to the actions of people with said characteristics that are long dead, and that the people you're shaming had absolutely zero control over. Now, I want you to keep in mind the concept that each individual person has no control over anyone else's actions but their own. We're going to be coming back to that.
Non-binary genders.
There are only two genders. Biological fact trumps feelings. Get over it.
There's Black Lives Matter.
A racist group of overreactionary bullies that hate white people, or cops, or the seemingly innocuous statement that all lives matter, or all of the above. And they don't just say to those they don't like, "I disagree with you, good sir, and I wish to express my displeasure with your views." In many cases, they get belligerent and start physically attacking, like in the Joey Salads video, or, they burn down a whole fucking town.
And definitely feminism.
The dogmatic and so-called academic ideology that claims to have a monopoly over the concept of gender equality, yet starts words it sees as positive, like its own name, with feminine prefixes, and completely makes up negative words with male prefixes. Not to mention, feminists often vehemently oppose people just calling themselves egalitarian, probably for similar reasons that Black Lives Matter doesn't like the statement all lives matter, which I speculate is due to a compulsive need to be the center of attention. Also, they pitch a fucking fit whenever someone suggests that maybe there should be a discussion about men's rights issues. Feminists demonize the term for a kind of human rights advocacy, one without any ideological tenets attached, and consider said advocates to be synonymous with misogynists. Gee, I don't know why anyone would have a problem with feminism.
Are not okay in the slightest to these people. Now, every individual in this community is slightly different. I want to acknowledge that before we continue. There will of course be exceptions to the things I'm about to say, and I don't want you to watch this video and then go on making sweeping generalizations, lumping people in this category and thinking everyone in it is one certain type of way. That's not the case. That being said, largely the community that I'm talking about has strong associations with things like advocating for freedom of speech, atheism, championing logic and rationality, and if they have channels, most of the videos they make seem to be focused on ripping apart social justice advocates and their views.
Well, if you want to know why that is, look no further than about 5 seconds ago when you listed things associated with anti-feminist channels. Feminism and social justice seem hell-bent on banning speech they don't like. If not through legal channels, then through deplatforming, i.e. Twitter bans, false flagging videos, blocking people, and safe spaces. That goes against the spirit of universal free speech, which is something I believe in, with specific exceptions for threats of violence and incitement of violence through direct instruction. Also, feminists treat their ideology just like a religion, but with invisible privilege and patriarchal power structures replacing belief in supernatural entities. And lastly, for reasons I have talked about extensively, feminists often espouse views that are antithetical to logic and reason.
For the sake of communication, I'll give this community a name. We'll call them anti-feminists. This is simply because while all their views differ slightly, a vast majority of them seem to have a major opposition to feminism, so anti-feminists it is.
I don't really have a problem with that label, as it describes part of my political/social views, but to be fair, it only describes something I'm against. So, much like the label of atheist, it doesn't tell you much about me. So, I'll just speak for myself here and say that I am also an egalitarian, a skeptic, a human rights advocate who is most active in advocating for men's rights in the United States, and of the men's rights issues I talk about, I am most adamant in my opposition to male genital mutilation, which other people unfairly grant the dignity of calling circumcision.
If I find a better name later, I'll refer to them differently. Now, the real problem I have with the anti-feminist community isn't their views. I mean, their views bum me out, but there will always be people whose views bum me out. That's inevitable. The thing I really dislike about anti-feminists on YouTube is how strongly they advocate for freedom of speech, yet seem determined on silencing anyone they disagree with. And they go out of their way to do it. They actively search for social justice advocates and then make videos devoted to ridiculing specific people.
I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm lazy as fuck. luck. I don't actively search for videos to respond to. Most often, I'll be watching a new response video by one of the YouTubers I like, and the video being responded to will be so chock full of stupid that I have to keep pausing to rant to myself about why their ideas are wrong. If I do that enough, clearly I have a lot to say about it, so I set about making a response video of my own. And when I make a response video, it's not to ridicule the person, it's to try and debunk the ideas that person is espousing. Making fun of the person who made the video is just a bonus.
And it's my opinion, their critiques tend to be more condescending than constructive. I feel like they pride themselves on it being a very logical, rational community.
Oh my god.
Well, what do you say to that then? Do you think they are, in fact, as logical and rational as they claim to be?
Absolutely not. So, my problem with this is that a lot of times they're atheist channels, and I'm an atheist, and I don't want to like bring religion/atheism into this, but it is largely like atheists who are like, I'm so logical, and I am perfect, and everything that I say is objective. And that's obviously not true, but they try to pass themselves off that way. Like, their comments are always, this is illogical, and you don't know what you're talking about, and trying to discredit you and saying that they're objective, when they don't recognize that every person has a bias, every person has a perspective. Even I try to acknowledge my own biases, my own perspectives in my videos. Like, I know when I'm making an argument that this isn't the objective facts, it's an argument. So I just think it's misleading to say that this is everything exactly as it is, and I know that it is, without acknowledging your own perspective.
Listen, Dennis the Menace. I have never said that I only speak in objective truth. I am aware that I have biases, and I try to pepper in little qualifiers on a somewhat regular basis to remind my audience that, yes, what I'm saying is my subjective opinion. Most of them probably already know that, and of course I'm not perfect. Nobody is. I'm just the closest thing.
And the videos they make implicitly encourage their audience to go over to their target's channel and harass them.
Implicitly, huh? I think you may be making inferences where there is no implication. But more importantly, I don't think I have ever referred to the subject of one of my response videos as a target. You can feel free to explore my channel and correct me if I ever have. But I know damn well that I am much more likely to refer to said people as the person I'm responding to, or by their name if I know and or care what it is. Or I'll just speak to them directly, like I'm doing to you right now.
Their audience bombards the social justice advocates' ratings with dislikes. Many people have bragged to me in the comments about how they made multiple accounts, dozens of accounts, just so they could dislike my content several times. That's dedication. And creepy. Creepy dedication. And it's important to note that lots of these anti-feminist YouTubers have real power and armies of hundreds of thousands of people behind them.
That's right, humans. And one day soon, your planet will be ours for the taking. Enjoy it while you can.
I've personally been specifically targeted by anti-feminists with millions of subscribers. When somebody with that much social influence goes out of their way to talk about just how dumb they think you are, it's scary. And the ramifications of their choice to do this are serious. As a direct result, my comment sections have become filled with threats, violence, and hate speech.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong here. Can you guess what it is? Here's a quick recap to help you out. She's talking about her comments section, and she said it's filled with threats, violence, and hate speech. If you guessed violence, you're right. I don't have a prize for you though. Anyway, no. Comment sections cannot be filled with violence. You can leave a comment describing violence, or simply referring to it, or threatening to commit it, but then again, you already covered that when you mentioned threats. So, it might be pedantic of me, but I had to point that out.
And you can't say they are simply exercising their right to disagree with me. It goes far beyond that. These kinds of audiences have even given themselves a name. They call themselves attack helicopters.
And they worship the goddess Lauren of Southern.
Susan
that you're a cisgender straight woman because you obviously
that's really true.
and that you probably haven't ever been raped. Either.
I actually identify
So
as an attack helicopter, so it's really offensive.
And they do attack in droves. I understand that their actions aren't face-to-face, their attacks are just over the internet, but it's still harassment. I'll prove it to you. Comments I get on my Everything Gender video, a project frequently targeted by anti-feminists, go as follows. Trigger warning, incredibly graphic, and derogatory language up next.
You're goddamn right the shit's about to go down, you fucking cunt! You triggered yet?
Am I the only one who would happily gun down any of the mentally challenged cunts featured in this video? This is the most cancerous, autistic, idiotic video ever.
Yeah, in the immortal words of a great philosopher observing the inevitability of the natural state of things, haters gonna hate, 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 hate. But if you're one of the few people who hasn't seen this video yet, brace yourselves. What she's about to read is probably the greatest comment in the history of YouTube and possibly the internet in general.
I sexually identify as an attack helicopter. Ever since I was a boy, I dreamed of soaring over the oil fields, dropping hot, sticky loads on disgusting foreigners. People say to me that a person being a helicopter is impossible and I'm fucking retarded, but I don't care. I'm beautiful. I'm having a plastic surgeon install rotary blades, 30mm cannons, and AMG 114 Hellfire missiles into my body. From now on, I want you guys to call me Apache and respect my right to kill from above and kill needlessly. If you can't accept me, then you're a heliphobe, and you need to check your vehicle privilege. Thank you for being so understanding. For every gender there was, I'd only need a double-barrel shotgun.
Bullshit! Shotguns use shells, not bullets.
I need to learn to tie a noose.
So now it's considered abusive and harassment if you leave a comment joking that you want to kill yourself? Remember that when I do part 2, everyone. It will come up again.
Have you had any personal contact with the anti-social justice community?
I have had people make response videos to mine with not the nicest language.
Fuck you, Dennis the Menace. You're not the language police.
In them, that does send people to my videos, and that's kind of been my experience with them. It's just, I wake up in the morning and there's 100 comments telling me to kill myself, and that's really the extent of my experience with them. I try to avoid watching the response videos.
Good for you!
Do you watch them? If they're made?
I can't help it. If there's one about me...
Well, then I'm sure you've been holed up in your room for weeks watching all the response videos you got for this one. Again, I know it's a dead horse, but I do feel somewhat obliged to add my commentary to the mix.
Really? I have not watched
them.
Really?
I have to. I know that there's a video just like hating me out there.
Yeah?
Yeah, maybe I'm giving them power. I am.
Yeah. Like, that's what I was worried about, is if I watch it, it's like I'm giving them views, I'm giving them watch time, I'm kind of validating that what they're doing is an okay thing, that, like, people are going to watch. But no, I feel the curiosity. Like, I do want to know what's in it. But at the same time, I don't want to... I know it's just going to make me feel bad, and it's just going to frustrate me, and so I try not to.
And it often goes beyond cyberbullying. One of my good friends, who's a creator, expressed having problems in their real life as a product of these anti-feminists. People at his school found the anti-feminist videos targeting him, and they used these videos as fuel to make fun of him IRL. He also received threats before going to VidCon from anti-feminists. Needless to say, my friend did not feel the safest at the con.
Well, it should be fairly obvious to anyone who knows me that I'm not pro-bullying by any stretch of the imagination. I still believe in freedom of speech, so I don't necessarily think there should be legal consequences for bullying or harassment if it's just verbal. But one thing that's worth noting about the threats is that you can report them, and statistically, it's very unlikely that such threats will be acted upon. Most of the time, people who say those things to you do it to get under your skin.
Now, I imagine anti-feminist creators who see this video will say they are not responsible for the actions of their audience.
Ding! 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 Remember what I said about how people are only responsible for their own actions and no one else's? Yeah, this is the return of that idea. I am not my audience. I do not possess mind control powers like the almighty Grodd. My audience is mostly made up of adults, and I am not their mother. What they do and say is entirely their responsibility. And if anyone were to ever comment, "Fuck you, cunt, kill yourself, Jim the Ape sent me," I would have to admonish that person for slandering my name by attaching it to such empty trolling. I advocate for substantive criticism, only peppered in with insults for entertainment. And while I also advocate for free speech in general, that doesn't mean I have to like everything that everyone ever says. And if you can't find an unedited clip of me condoning cyberbullying, harassment, etc., then you can't claim that I'm inciting any.
This seems like a huge cop-out to me. Your audience certainly isn't literally controlled by you. You're not in their home forcing their hand, but we've seen this pattern for years now. An anti-feminist makes a targeting video and their audience goes over in droves trying to destroy the target. That's just what happens.
Again, with all this violent rhetoric, which I'm fine with when it's appropriate, but here I don't think it is. Granted, I can only speak for myself, but I've always been clear about the fact that I don't go after people specifically. I take on bad ideas and try to explain why I think they're bad ideas, through argumentation.
This leads me to believe they either condone the behavior or simply don't care.
With me, it's always safe to assume the latter. I have a severely limited reservoir of fucks to give. I have to distribute them wisely.
That's where anti-feminists and I differ. If my audience went over and virtually attacked another creator because of things I said, I'd be pissed. Maybe I'm an idealist, but I'd like to hope we can live in a world where we disagree, but instead of having our audiences fight the fight for us, we can open our ears and minds and listen, learn, and discuss.
Having become very familiar with this video in the past couple of weeks from various response videos by other YouTubers, I already know you're going to contradict yourself on that little feel-good idealism you just spouted. But something else this brings to mind, for me anyway, is the idea that people have to be respectful when they disagree with you. No, fuck that. You don't get to tone police the people who disagree with you any more than they get to tone police you. No one has to be respectful because respect is earned, not given.
I don't want to just complain, so I'll offer some solutions. I think we can work towards a better future by doing two things. When I say we, I mean everyone, feminists and anti-feminists. All people. Number one, explicitly tell your audience that you don't condone them attacking people you disagree with.
I've already done that a couple of times, but I'm not going to do it in every single video because one, my videos are long enough already, and two, because fuck you, you don't tell me what to do. Also, it wouldn't matter if I did, because the people who want to troll you or anyone else I respond to are going to do it anyway. I can't stop them, and I don't have to. I just need to not tell them to harass anybody, and I don't. And then, if they do that anyway, it's up to you to deal with in whatever way you see fit. There's the block button, deleting specific comments, disabling comments on certain videos, or just growing a fucking spine and some thicker skin and ignoring it.
I'll do this now. Hey audience, as you watch this video, I feel like it's safe to assume that maybe a few specific anti-feminists popped in your head. If you want to go over to their channel and express why you disagree with their views, that's fine, but please remain respectful and constructive. I'll be disappointed if you purposely try to make them feel like human shit.
Your speciesist language has me about to go ape shit because you think your human shit is superior. Well, it doesn't matter. Shit is shit. And no, I don't throw mine. That's monkeys, you gorilla-phobic cunts. Anyway, I don't care if you criticize me constructively, respectfully, or straight up try to troll me to death. I'm an adult, and I can take it. Come at me, bro.
Number two, make videos responding to larger issues rather than specific people.
Again, fuck you. You don't tell me what content to make and what not to make. And for the record, I do occasionally make monologue videos where I just talk about a topic for a while and don't use any clips of anything else. But do you know the reason why I make so many response videos? It's so that I can respond to specific arguments that are being advanced without misrepresenting them. So rather than me sitting here beating up a straw man of a feminist, I respond point by point to actual feminist arguments and show them side by side with my rebuttals so that my audience can judge for themselves who they think think is more correct. We'll get to why that's so important in just a minute.
If you have a problem with something, say trigger warnings or third wave feminism, make a video breaking down those concepts. Why go to all the trouble of finding someone who talks about these things just to mock them? Is it because it's more entertaining? Do you think it'll get more views?
Yes, it is entertaining, and that is the main purpose of my channel, but also because I can use the response video format to springboard into talking about bigger issues. For example, say Agnes Turok says in her maybe kinda sorta poem thing that she gets bullied and harassed online for talking about women's rights to their own bodies. Well, that gives me an excellent opportunity to comparatively talk about my advocacy for men's rights to their own bodies, and how it's legal and considered normal to cut a part of their skin off when they're only about a week old. And I can compare her complaints to the reactions I get for said advocacy.
Because if so, that just makes me feel like you're capitalizing on making fun of people. You've turned mocking others into a money-making business. To me, that's gross. I just don't respect that.
Well, then I guess it's a good thing for me. I don't give a pumpkin spice flavored fuck what you respect.
I just can't believe people who do that have good intentions.
I think they have a very set values that they adhere to very strongly and like identify with very strongly, that, you know, there's no wage gap and trans people don't exist and stuff like that.
It's an earnings gap caused by personal choices, not sexism, and trans people do exist. Gender dysphoria is a real thing. What's not real, though, are all these ridiculous non-binary genders on Tumblr and other social media sites. Those are just psychotic delusions, special snowflake syndrome, cries for attention, and attempts to be classified as a victimized or marginalized group so they can cry oppression and get sympathy from other SJWs.
How do you handle it when you do get a wave of hatred that comes to you after they've targeted you?
Honestly, it's still a thing that I'm trying to figure out how to cope with. And a large part of my response has been to just stop looking at the comments. I haven't looked at my comments in a couple weeks. When I post a video, I'll look at the comments immediately afterwards because I know that the people who are watching the video immediately, it's just the people, my normal audience, who wants to see the stuff. And then it takes the trolls, I don't want to call them trolls, but the hateful people a few days to find my video and start making comments like that. So I can respond to things quickly, but I don't check all of my comments like I used to. And I'm not sure if that's the best way to be dealing with things. I don't know. I want to be checking my comments, and I know there's an argument for disabling your comments to not give them that opportunity. Yeah, it feels like YouTube has rules in the terms of service against harassment and bullying and stuff like that, and yet channels are allowed to thrive that are just built on harassment and bullying, which it seems like it shouldn't exist.
Ooh, so close. I was with you right up until the end there, Dennis. I was liking how you were describing a solution to comments you don't like that didn't involve deleting or disabling comments. But then you just had to ruin it by claiming that anti-SJW channels are built on harassment and bullying, and that they shouldn't exist. Like I said, it's not about harassment, it's about arguments. I know I said we were going to get to why response videos are so important, and we haven't yet, but just trust me, it's coming.
So those are my thoughts. I look forward to the inevitable video responses specifically targeting me to come.
Ugh, I did not need that image in my head. I swear to God, these feminists are the biggest fucking turnoff since yeast infections.
And for those of you about to ask, no, I will not participate in a live debate with you.
There it is! See, if you won't participate in a live debate, then the best way to debunk your arguments without misrepresenting them is to simulate a debate. Gee, how would that work? I guess we could take your monologue videos espousing your positions, download them, edit them together with our rebuttals to your arguments, and post the finished product to YouTube. Hey, wait a minute! That sounds an awful lot like a response video. You know, the thing you've been bitching about for 11 minutes of your video, and much, much longer if you count my responses in this video.
I have a full-time job, a family, and frankly, better things to do than engage with the 100 people who want to argue with me over Skype.
In other words, if you want to debate about these topics, you're a loser who doesn't have a life. Yeah, most of us have jobs too, and yet we find the time to make videos and do live streams. I know, it's amazing.
However, I am genuinely interested in your constructive thoughts, whether you disagree with me or agree with me, so please let me know them in the comments below. Okay, bye!
Okay, bye!
Okay, bye. Well, now I feel stupid. Anyway, that's the end of her video. To avoid prolonging this video, I'll skip most of the shameless self-promotion because most of you already know what to do. If not, my links are in the description. Follow me, support me on Patreon, all that good shit. And to be fair, the link to the original video will also be in the description. But in case it's not obvious from what I said before, I don't condone going over to it to downvote it or leave mean comments. The reason I provide the link is so that you can watch her video in its entirety without interruptions from me, so you can get the full context and see any parts I may have edited out to save time, if you feel the need to do so. Other than that, your actions are your own and are not endorsed by me. So, with that being said, I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes.